what? I guess I'll do it. Thank you. Before I get started, though, I do want to introduce the two individuals that came with me from my family. Two of my granddaughters. That's Laura and Valerie. Carol didn't make it this time, but she has promised that she is going to be in Minneapolis on the 2nd of September. It's really great. Great to be here. Great to see such a nice crowd. It's great to see the enthusiasm. Some people thought the enthusiasm was going to die down after the primaries. And I think I'm on the record of saying it's only the beginning, folks. Now, it is very exciting. Big things are happening. The other day I wrote an article for the website and talked about a lot of big things happening. There are big things that are happening that are negative, but this is big too, and we have the answers to the problems that we have in this country. But it's obviously building. If you look at the financial crisis that is building, the other day, Bernanke and Paulson was before the committee. I made the point to them that the American people are upset. Everybody has problems, and the government hasn't even admitted there's a recession yet. But all they have to do is get out of this town and find out how American people are forced to live and what they're up against and what's going on in this country. Then they'll realize that we are not on the right track, and we know where the right track is, and that is to follow the Constitution. But you have to look at the cost of energy and the cost of our gasoline from a different perspective. One, the value of the dollar. The value of the dollar goes down when you print too many. When you have a foreign policy where you are motivated to do this, obviously us going to the Middle East to protect our oil didn't work so well. Right now, it's so unstable, and with the threat that this war could spread, there's a risk premium put in there on a daily basis. So the foreign policy has pushed that cost of energy up. But then again, the value of the dollar goes down. But paying for the foreign policy in combination with the risk that we have involved, all the drilling in the world won't put, value back into the dollar. We need a sound political system, sound foreign policy, and sound financial system. In the last couple of weeks, I have been going to the floor to talk about H-Con-Res 362. Something that should not be brought to the floor. It should be defeated, but rather within a couple days, if not a week, they had 220 co-sponsors. Fortunately, though, this week I was able to quote two of the sponsors of the bill who were changing their minds because they realized it is so aggressive. It is actually literally advocating a blockade of Iran. That won't help us. Now, the best way to get others to realize the danger of this, and I brought this up in the committee as well as on the House floor, consider what it would be like if a foreign country, a strong government came and they were powerful enough to impose on us a restriction that we couldn't import petroleum products, that they would control all ships, boats, planes, and trains and trucks coming into our country, and all the control of the people. Now, what would we as Americans do? I bet we'd be unified and we'd want to do something about it. That's exactly what we're doing, and that's exactly what we're threatening. At the same time, we're pretending that our policy is supposed to be undermining Ahmadinejad in Iran. Well, I'll tell you what, if somebody comes and threatens us, we get unified. Just think, after 9/11, we weren't fighting among ourselves because we saw us being threatened, and it brings people together. So the dissidents in Iran right now are being hurt, and Ahmadinejad is being held. Now, sometimes I wonder if it isn't deliberate so that we always have an enemy out there, that we have to keep the military-industrial complex going. Not so much I had the slightest doubt about the message. I've never had a doubt about the message of freedom and liberty and our Constitution. I had doubts whether I was to be the messenger and to lead this charge. Also, I didn't know how many belonged and still existed in our remnant. Our remnant is much bigger than we ever dreamed. But what about the enthusiasm of the young people in the campuses? They've come alive with the ideas of liberty. Now, I don't do any measuring about the Main Street media, but I understand that they didn't give us the best shake, that sometimes we came up short. But what they didn't know about was, you know, you 2 or 3 dozen spammers, how you could spread our message around the country. I see it all the time, is the message of liberty and the Constitution. It brings us together regardless of our personal beliefs. If you know and understand what the First Amendment is all about and what freedom is all about, we can take a crowd like this and what your personal religious beliefs are not relevant. They're relevant to you and to your family and your children and all, and that's very important in what you do in your community. But in a free society, it's really not relevant. What we have to do is agree that we have freedom of choice in social behavior. That's what we need. And of course, there are a certain group in Congress that's a little bit better on protecting those values than others. But unfortunately, they're the same ones who think you don't have a right to spend your own money. Now, our conclusion is, and the freedom message is, in a free society, you have the right to run your own life, you have the right to earn as much money as you want, and you have the right to spend it any way you want. But along with this, if you practice bad behavior and it hurts yourself, you can't come crawling to the government to go to your neighbor and bail you out. If you don't take care of yourself and take care of your retirement and your medical needs, you can't go to your neighbor and send the government there to bail you out. Freedom really works, and it is popular. I think what we're seeing here, occurring here in the last year or so, is our confidence is coming back. Confidence that freedom does work and that we don't have to depend on the government from cradle to grave. It's obvious the foreign policy is a failure. It's obvious that the Federal Reserve System is a failure. It's obvious that we shouldn't even have the IRS and the taxes that we have. And if you look at the entitlement system, that's a total failure. There's only debt there. The elderly now, who have paid into the system, are starting to receive. They have an inflation rate of 10 or 12%, and they get increases in their benefits, maybe 2%. So they're losing. No wonder they feel like there's a recession going on. So and salaries under these conditions never keep up. So people are in a recession, and all of a sudden the message has been spread. You know, one of the probably most interesting and entertaining events occurred early in the campaign when I think there was somebody else on the stage. You know, or I can't remember all their names. There were a total of 11. You know, running, but I think he was a mayor of a big city. That's all I remember. But he was the one that called me on the carpet, and you know, there was a lot of booing and hissing. Obviously, you people weren't in the crowd. But lo and behold, I remember that evening, I was a little uncertain what it meant. It really didn't disturb me that much because, you know, I've had poor reception to a lot of my speeches over the years. But I remember a few minutes afterwards, Ken Snyder came up to me and he whispered, he said, guess what? You're winning in the post-debate polls.